Stewart-Haas Racing is shutting down completely. How did we get here, and what happens next? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. No need for upbeat intro music today. This is a somber occasion. This is not a video I was hoping to make, not a topic I'm excited to discuss, but the news is official. Stewart-Haas Racing will shut down at the end of this season. The first report I saw came from Matt Weaver, whose sources indicated it was an emotional scene inside the walls of Stewart-Haas today as Tony Stewart addressed employees and explained that this season would in fact be their last. Then Stewart-Haas Racing released an official statement. A joint statement from Tony Stewart and Gene Haas, the co-owners of Stewart-Haas Racing. Quote, "We have made the difficult decision to close Stewart-Haas Racing at the conclusion of the 2024 season. It is a decision that did not come easily, nor was it made quickly. Racing is a labor-intensive, humbling sport. It requires unwavering commitment and vast resources with a 365-day mindset to be better than everyone else. It's part of what makes success so rewarding. But the commitment needed to extract maximum performance while providing sustainability is incredibly demanding, and we've reached a point in our respective personal and business lives where it's time to pass the torch. We're proud of all the wins and championships we've earned since joining together in 2009, but even more special is the culture we built and the friendships we forged as we committed to a common cause, winning races and collecting trophies. That is the same commitment we made to our personnel, our partners, and our fans coming into this year, and that commitment will remain through the season finale at Phoenix. We have tremendous respect and appreciation for all of our employees, and we will work diligently to assist them during this transition to find new opportunities beyond the 2024 race season." End quote. Wow. I know all of the rumors have been moving this direction the past few weeks, but it's still surreal to see it made official, to see it in writing. That statement mentions the culture, the employees. Hundreds of talented Stewart-Haas Racing employees now are looking for new opportunities. Driver Chase Briscoe posted a short clip on social media this afternoon and made sure to highlight the great people he's worked with.
What an incredible group of men and women at this place that just make it feel like home and just make you enjoy coming to work each and every day. First and foremost, I just hope that all the guys and gals at this place, find a great opportunity because each and every single person here deserves it.
16 seasons, 69 NASCAR Cup Series wins, 2 Cup Series championships, not to mention great success in the Xfinity Series as well. Just unbelievable that this former NASCAR powerhouse is going away, dissolving before our very eyes. I still remember when Tony Stewart left Joe Gibbs to form Stewart-Haas Racing. He'd won 2 Cup Series championships, was still in his prime. He went off to start his own team and reached the pinnacle just 3 years later. Stewart's championship in 2011, Harvick's in 2014, but you could argue 2018, just a few years ago, was Stewart-Haas at its peak, when all 4 of their drivers and cars made it to the round of 8. And again, this team just won a NASCAR Xfinity Series championship with Cole Custer. That's why I said last week, the bones of a successful NASCAR organization are still there. It was not all that long ago this team was formidable. So what happened? Why is this happening? My emotions are similar to how I felt when Furniture Row Racing announced they were closing. But I think the circumstance around Furniture Row's departure and Stewart-Haas's departure are very different. You'll recall Furniture Row Racing shut down basically a year after winning the NASCAR Cup Series championship. But they were a smaller team based in Denver, Colorado, largely funded by Barney Visser. And in my opinion, they fell victim to NASCAR's flawed, ruthless business model. Once they lost 5 Hour Energy, one of their few major sponsors, it wasn't financially feasible to continue their technical alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. Rather than run 20 to 25th every week, Barney Visser figured it was time to close up shop. That all happened very, very quickly, while Stewart-Haas's downfall, if you will, has happened over the course of several years. We've in some ways almost seen this coming. I don't think you can compare Stewart-Haas's decline to Furniture Row's. Instead, if anything, I'd compare Stewart-Haas to Roush in the mid-2010s. Roush was once a powerhouse Cup Series team, then veteran drivers like Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards left for rivals. Greg Biffle said later that he should have left sooner than he did. I think there were some folks in competition roles there at Roush that were maybe left in those roles too long. The sport evolved so quickly, they didn't keep up, and Roush dwindled from a 5-car team down to a 2-car team, from 5 cars in the playoffs to 0. We've seen Roush the past couple of years begin to rebuild, but Roush's decline is similar in some ways to Stewart-Haas. Stewart-Haas, though, they flipped the kill switch, I guess. Stewart-Haas lost a veteran championship caliber driver, Kurt Busch, after the 2018 season. Another veteran, Clint Bowyer, left at the end of 2020. He, of course, retired. 2020, I think, was a pivotal year for Stewart-Haas Racing. With Clint Bowyer retiring, many wondered if that 14 car was a possible landing spot for Kyle Larson. And you have to remember, at this time, Kevin Harvick was in the middle of a 9-win season. Stewart-Haas looked like a very appealing destination. But Kyle Larson wound up with Hendrick instead. And you'll recall Tony Stewart said in an Instagram comment later on that Ford wouldn't let him pursue Larson. There's no way to know if Stewart-Haas would have won the Kyle Larson sweepstakes if Ford had given their blessing, but many fans point to this moment as the beginning of the end. This was the moment Tony Stewart's interest in NASCAR went away. In the days, weeks, months that followed, Tony Stewart met Leah Pruitt. They went NHRA drag racing. Tony Stewart helped establish a brand new short track series, the Superstar Racing Experience. Suddenly, Tony Stewart was everywhere but the NASCAR track. Gene Haas, of course, has always been sort of split between NASCAR and perhaps more importantly, Formula One. 2020 was a turning point. Since then, of course, we have seen sponsors leave, veterans like Eric Almirola and Kevin Harvick retire or semi-retire. But if you ask me, how did we get to this point? It all comes back to leadership. I think Stewart and Haas are largely to blame for Stewart-Haas Racing's downfall. They became disinterested, absent. And everyone can see that after 2020, performance immediately began to suffer. Then Anheuser-Busch left, Smithfield left, Kevin Harvick left. Ford, not interested in renewing their partnership this year, went to Front Row Motorsports instead. Tony Stewart is one of the greatest race car drivers to ever walk on this planet, but it's fair to question his leadership, especially the past couple of seasons. Remember this quote from this past offseason? He told Sirius, "We've had 2 miserable years in a row, and I'm tired of taking the blame from everybody on why the cars are not running good. I think the fans need a reality check and a reminder that I'm not the crew chief, the engineer. I don't dictate the setups on the cars. I give these guys the tools to do the job, and we just haven't gotten it done the last couple of years." Ah, yes, nothing like a leader who deflects, who throws his employees under the bus, more or less. Obviously, Tony Stewart doesn't drive the cars, doesn't set the cars up, but his name is on the building. He has never taken accountability the way I think many expect him to. Kevin Harvick threw shade at Tony Stewart and Gene Haas this past week when he subbed for Kyle Larson at Hendrick Motorsports.
I mean, I heard from the owner twice in 2 weeks. So that's different.
To compare to Furniture Row, once again, Furniture Row was a victim of a ruthless, difficult NASCAR business model. Stewart-Haas Racing's had to deal with many of those same challenges, but it's taken several years to get to this point. Stewart-Haas Racing's downfall can more directly be traced to their leadership. It's not just Tony Stewart and Gene Haas. There are other leaders. There are other important people in positions of power within that organization. That's where I believe Stewart-Haas Racing ultimately failed. It's a shame. It's truly a shame to see. Again, feel really badly for the couple hundred different employees who work within that shop. What happens next? Sounds like the Xfinity Series team is shutting down as well. I know there was some speculation that that team could remain. Now Ford, I think, only has Ryan Sieg's team and AM Racing in the Xfinity Series. Goodness gracious. 4 charters are about to be sold. 4 Cup Series drivers need new homes. Bob Pockrass, Fox Sports, reported earlier. Sources indicate Front Row, 2311, and Trackhouse will each obtain one of the Stewart-Haas charters. The 4th is more unclear. Legacy, RFK, and JTG have all indicated interest in expanding, but I do not expect them to be in play for any of the SHR charters, and JRM is not in play as well. Sorry, Junior Nation. This report comes off the heels of an athletic report last week that suggests under the next charter agreement, NASCAR Cup Series organizations may be limited to 3 charters each. Gibbs, Hendrick would be grandfathered in, at least for the time being. If that's the case, that blows up my theory from a week ago that Front Row is going to buy 2 charters and become a 4-car team, effectively replacing Stewart-Haas. Now, that is still on the table. Bob does say he doesn't know where that 4th charter is going. Front Row could scoop it up, though that does seem unlikely. Aside from that prediction, the rest of my silly season predictions I think are looking pretty good at the moment, because I did predict Trackhouse would buy 1, 2311 would buy 1, and Front Row would buy at least 1. I still think Custer to Front Row makes a ton of sense. That's at least something I've heard. It's just on the table at least. Who knows what 2311 and Trackhouse will do with their charters, but we'll have to wait and see. As for the rest of Stewart-Haas Racing's current driver lineup, I still believe Chase Briscoe will end up with the Wood brothers. Ford likes him. He's a good driver. The Wood brothers need to make a change, so that pairing makes sense to me. Front Row, again, is a key player. If they do, in fact, buy 1 Stewart-Haas charter, they'll have at least 2 seats to fill. Let's say Cole Custer gets 1. What about Josh Berry? That was my prediction last week. I still feel good about it. Josh Berry is an experienced race car driver. He's run very well lately. I don't know how much sponsorship he brings, but say Love's Travel Stop stays on board. Perhaps they could buy into Josh Berry, and that match would make sense. Noah Gragson will be in Cup somewhere. There was a report also in The Athletic last week that Richard Childress Racing could be interested in buying a 3rd charter for Noah Gragson. That would be extremely interesting if that in fact happens. Bob Pockris did not mention Gragson nor RCR in that report I just read you, so TBD. Riley Herbst, Xfinity Series driver, does have some funding. Ryan Preece, been in Cup for a while now, hasn't had much success. Question marks surround those two. I'm having a hard time placing them. But if you're a Chase Briscoe fan or a Noah Gragson fan, I think they will find a new home, and I think you'll be fairly happy with where they end up. Everything else is very much up in the air. Hopefully, many of these Stewart-Haas employees are able to land elsewhere, but that's to kind of conclude. That's why this is such a big blow. It's dramatic. It gives us something to talk about, but losing a powerhouse organization, a 4-car team swept away in an instant, that has ripple effects throughout the entire industry. We already know it's going to drive the values of charters down, at least in the short term, now that there are so many available on the market and the next charter deal still hasn't been signed. But now so many employees looking for work, who goes where, who are teams able to scoop up. It's chaos, not just for the drivers, not just for the crew chiefs, the owners, but there are so many hardworking employees out there who now face great uncertainty as a result of this move. With all due respect, when Furniture Row Racing shut down, it was one team, largely based out of Colorado. 1 car, 1 team, and a lot of them got absorbed by Joe Gibbs Racing. That's where Truex and Cole Pearn went. Stewart-Haas shuts down. That's 4 cars based right there in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. Lots of people that now need to seek new opportunities. I'm sure many will land in certain places throughout the industry, but some won't, and that is very unfortunate. That does stink, quite frankly. But that's my reaction. This is very live and in the moment. I look at Stewart-Haas and say, bad leadership, unwillingness to make the hard decisions. Absent leadership is ultimately what spiraled this team to the point we're at now. These problems took several years to develop. They weren't addressed, and unfortunately, the entire company is now paying the price. I guess that's all I have to say for now. I'm sure we will continue to learn more information over the coming weeks and months. That's just my initial reaction to the bombshell Stewart-Haas is shutting down at the end of this year. Unbelievable. Still sounds ridiculous to say it out loud, to see it in writing. Goodness. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm sure many of you already have. I want to know what you think. But that is going to do it for this episode, y'all. Leave a like on this video. It does help me out a ton. Subscribe for more NASCAR news, commentary, race reactions, and much, much more. And thank you to my Patreon supporters for continuing to support the show and keep it growing. I will see you all again very soon. If you missed it, this afternoon I posted an earlier episode, had my power rankings and everything included. Be sure to check that out. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, folks. I will see you again soon.